Hello, dear friends. In this episode, I will just provide a bit more minor detail on previously mentioned prophecies and topics. This episode is for those who have already seen all the others in the playlist. Now, let's start with Vladimir Zhirinovsky, who is actually a politician, not a shaman. But I don't know how, with analysis or he's got insider information, he has predicted suspiciously too many things, I would say. Like, for example, the date on which the Ukraine war started, and he made that prediction the year before it happened. In the beginning of his long political career, the people were making fun of him because he had the habit to speak loudly stories which came across like jokes, but over the decades, people started noticing that all these funny stories started coming true, and he became famous as prophet. And he recently shared the date on which the Ukraine war would start, but he was talking about it long since many years before that, and many other things. So, according to him, it will all start with Ukraine, then there will be wars in the Caucasus region, and after that, the Russian army will march all through Europe. He didn't mention that eventually this army will be obliterated and nobody will come back. But those who have followed the previous episodes will already know that. Somebody asked him who will win in the next elections. He died recently, and he said there will be no next elections in Ukraine. The country will not even exist anymore. The world will be racing towards World War III. In 2004, they asked him about the future of Israel. He said that in some 20 years there will be no Israel. It will be defeated, and the escape plan which their government has is to actually relocate in the Russians region, Ukraine, etc. And they will be beginning to clean up areas for their arrival in case the country in the Middle East gets blown up. And by the way, the reasons for such a backup plan in case Israel is destroyed, they're not only the obviously geopolitical reasons that everybody can figure out easily. They have also deep religious reasons. I've seen a recording of one of their most respected rabbis quoting the oldest surviving Jewish book of prophecies, where the prophetic narration clearly points towards our time when all the Jewish people are gathered in the Middle East. And then there is a serious warning. It is good that they are gathered as a community, however, at no cost they should make it as a state, as a country, because if they create it, it will be blown up. So that's why they may have this plan B. And as we know from the other episodes, at the end this country not do well, but that will be towards the very end. Initially, they will manage to build the temple, visa-free arrangements, all tourist help for accommodation and everything, just with one aim, to enroll in the performances of the Antichrist, to subscribe, to participate, to enroll in Club Dajjal. And on internet one can find a good number of videos showing crows viciously attacking and destroying the flag, which is considered as a sure sign of demise of the owner of the flag, not only in the region where it is happening, but also across continents. Always the actions of the crows are considered an omen, a herald of the end of somebody or something. So since many years talking about the future World War III, Zhirinovsky was saying first it will start in Ukraine, but then in the Middle East it will become so serious that the news of war in Ukraine, nobody will read them. The situation worldwide will become highly flammable. And the same story tells Molfar Nechai. He was a renowned, very famous Ukrainian white shaman, healer, hereditary, druid, medicine man, and he definitely knew the future. So in year 2007, a journalist asked him on camera, and this video is still available, what is the future of his country? And much to everybody's surprise, he said, it will disappear from the map. Very soon there will be no Ukraine at all. The east and central part will rejoin Russia as it always used to be. And the rest will be shared between Poland, Hungary, and Czechia. He said that the big Ukrainian cities will be destroyed completely. All the people will simply flee. They will basically vacate the region. Zhirinovsky also mentioned the same. And then the very name Ukraine will be forgotten. And by the way, Ukraine is one of these artificially created countries. It was not a proper nation ever, but the parasites, when they were doing divide and conquer, they conjured all kinds of countries. And then Molfar Nechai, sometime in the spring of 2011, started telling the people who were coming to him by great numbers that he will be accepting patients only until 15th of July. And on that day, a man came with the crowds, disguised as a patient, but he just pulled up a knife and stabbed him. He did not try to resist. He knew about everything beforehand, as his relatives shared as well, and he went by his own will. He decided to leave at this time. It was okay with him. One of the reasons for which I've been preaching the importance of sacred plants in the previous videos is that they gift, when properly used, this fearlessness of death, which can be observed amongst shamans, because they really know, they have hand-on experience that actually nobody dies, while the majority of the religious people, they believe theoretically that actually nobody dies, but due to lack of hands-on experience in these matters, they often panic and take wrong decision when they feel that their life is endangered. Joseph Mlachi was a saint of the last century of Mount Athos in Greece. So this is how he saw the beginning of the World War. According to him, the only two things which are on the way for the Satanists to rule the world the way they want it, the two things are Russia and Greece. Greece, because of Mount Athos, and the sincerity towards God in the hearts of the people, the Greek people, and Russia is also on their way. It's an obstacle for them because the Orthodox Christianity, according to him, is not corrupted yet enough to serve them properly. So the very presence of righteous souls in unacceptable for them numbers in these two places will make them go for this scenario. With treacherous politics, they will force somehow or other Turkey to enter on Greek territory and start some sort of military operation. Most likely, according to me only, this is the well-known dispute for a strip of just a couple of kilometers between the two countries. Nothing meaningful at all. And then Joseph Mlachi continues that at that time the Greek government will be barely independent, it will be very weak. And the Turks will come, and then Russia will intervene against the Turks to repel them from Greece. And that will be exactly according to their plan, so that after that they will have an excuse to immediately send large military of NATO there in the region. They will mobilize many nations, they will pull them into the conflict all the way to Japan. The slaughter will be unbelievable. 100 million people will die in that battle alone. The Vatican will also participate in its own way very actively, and that will be the beginning of its full demise. At the end of the entire fiasco, the Vatican will be simply archived amongst the pages of the history books. After that, the Orthodox faith will be resurrected and renewed. It will be exactly the faith like the first followers of Christ had. They will begin to live in a righteous way, but after 30-40 years, the dictatorship of the Antichrist will begin. End of prophecy. If you remember, in one of the previous episodes, I explained why that most likely, or according to what I gather of this sum total of hundreds of prophecies which I browsed, those 30-40 years were meant to be that many if the war would have happened at its proper time, that means around year 2000. Most likely, instead of this full-scale world war, only a very mild event of a milder timeline occurred, and that was the Kosovo War, while the destiny turned into another riverbed. Another timeline. In this other timeline, the war around Turkey and Greece starts some 20-30 years after that, after year 2000, that means very soon. And then the Orthodox Renaissance is very, very short, just months or a year or so, because the cosmic clock is ticking and the time of the new Earth is very, very near, but we are not changing, so we need an intensive learning course urgently. Joseph Mladschi, or Joseph of Watupedi the Younger in English, was a renowned elder, and he belonged to a very special lineage. So he knew what is he talking about. I didn't understand if he's sharing his own visions or some of his teachers' visions, but this doesn't matter because they are all reliable sources. And basically, I included this as confirmation of the most likely scenario of the beginning of the World War, which I outlined in episode 43. And the elders didn't warn us about these upcoming trials to make us depressed or gloomy. Just on the contrary, they see the entire thing as a great learning opportunity. Started Silwan again from Mount Athos. What they try to translate with the English term God-bearing is the Orthodox expression duchanosny, which means literally one who has realized the Holy Spirit and is in direct contact with the Holy Spirit inside oneself. This is the same what the yogis achieve in India. They are in direct conversation with the Paramatma, the direct form of the Lord in everybody's heart, responsible to hear each and every, even the smallest prayer. So apparently, in those faraway times, he also had visions of the end times, of which I will include only one sentence because the rest has been covered by other prophecies already. He mentioned that country after country will be consumed in the flames of the war, together with all the natural disasters who will finish it off quickly. And yet there will be some places which will remain intact, and that will be exactly those places which the modern people call uninhabited. A 14th century monk and healer, Lucas, wrote down his visions about our times. He said, "I see a really strange stuff, a pipe which comes out from the wall of the people's houses. Water comes in it at any time automatically, and another pipe takes down the dirty water." And then he continued writing down what he saw. "I see extremely high buildings, and the people live in them exactly like the bees live in a beehive. And their windows are as big as the door of my hermitage. And I see small fires blinking and running on strings. The people wear very weird outfits, and their coaches have no animals. They decorate themselves with religious crosses. They have such crosses even on the ears, and yet nothing godly in their hearts." Luca continued. I also saw people in flying coaches looking around out of their windows into the heavens. But then a giant ball of fire dropped out from near the tail of the iron bird, and black smoke spread out, and the people started screaming as they do in hell. But then one could not hear their screams anymore because of the crushing sound of the falling metal bird. When it crashed into the ground, people were smashed in thousand pieces which flew all around, while the souls to whom they belonged were mourning over their bodies from above. Luca continued, and I saw how the ways of the people changed as well. Shame. Sadly, the children would finish off their own parents so that they would get hold of their blood as soon as possible and sell it. And then, with the money to procure one of those coaches without horses. And sadly, the sin spread beyond limits, and pure girls were selling themselves to men, and not even one, but sometimes 2 or 3 at the same time, and even 10. And I saw how they trade with infants just to harvest their hearts. And just a small footnote here about the Canadian humanitarian euthanization program, which was initially introduced for people who are in unbearable pain. Later on, they extended it to all kinds of groups of people, and now even to infants. Any infant who seems to be at some point in pain of some sort could be eligible for this program with or without the approval of the parents. And of course, it's barely a secret that babies cry pitifully for trivial reasons, like, for example, needing to belch after sucking milk, and that surely looks tragic and, of course, can be interpreted as being in pain. So, more or less, all infants can become easily eligible for this program, and what a lucky coincidence that after that the Canadian government has already made arrangements that their organs are put to good use. Good according to them. This has been going on for some time already. And then Luca continued that the sin will escalate so much amongst people that it will become very common for babies to get born with 3 hands or 2 heads. That's how basically the evil spirits in hell look like. As the humanity adapts their dirty language, dirty habits, and ways of life, more and more babies will come out in that way. And when the world drowns in unbelievable sin, the earth will start shaking. And countless people of those high homes, the beehives in the skies, they perish immediately. Others are swallowed by the earth. The water of the seashores will overflow and will chase after the fleeing people. The waters of the earth become as venomous as the spit of a snake. And even the bread the people eat, the food, that isn't fit to be eaten, and it will cause a plague for those who eat it. And then even for a morsel of food and a sip of water, the people will transgress the holy amendments. And then will be seen in the sky an enormous flash illuminating the people, and then swiftly from the fog will grow giant mushrooms of the shape of those which appear after rain. The gigantic mushrooms will be the harbingers of the apocalypse. Those who do not depart immediately for the other worlds will be eaten by terrible sicknesses, their flesh falling on the ground from the bones. This is what Luca called drowning in sin. His description of modern times is beyond a random guess. I didn't even include all he said, but there are even more striking details, which confirm that he is for true. Do you believe him or the modern preachers who tell you that just by imagining your karma will be changed today and you have nothing to worry about? The medieval hermit has proven who he is with his mystic powers, and the modern gurus cannot help even themselves. So in the very early episodes of the End Times, I mentioned that in Russia they had local prophecies dating from the last 2-3 generations about the future passport, the one world passport, which will be effectively be the mark of the beast. And today I found 2 examples of such local prophecies. So this is a testimony from the first half of the previous century of an Orthodox woman, Natalia, who says that my grandmother and my mother refused to get passports, and I want to tell you about the reason for which they did so. They paid close attention to what the wandering priest Michael told them. At that time he was prosecuted and he was forced to hide and sleep in different houses every day, but they could never catch him because he went through so much prosecution and difficulties that God was pleased and gave him the gifts of prophecy, the gift of vision, and he could see if there was a police after him. So, as far as the passports, he said, first they will start giving out green passports, then they will start issuing red passports, and then they will start issuing passports color Bordeaux, kind of brownish, reddish. And that's exactly the first Soviet passport was greenish. Then afterwards, in 1974, they started with the red passports, the internal for internal use. And the current one of the Russian Federation is exactly color Bordeaux. So for this reason, seeing is believing. The people heard the prophecies from real saints and they saw the confirmation, and that is why by thousands until they kept the tradition, and some people in the strong Orthodox families, they never took passports. This situation which we had at that time, enlightening, wandering priests going around the villages and waking up people. This is exactly what Seth of Jane Roberts calls the culture of the speakers. Most of the modern gurus, they imitate the speakers. They are not speakers themselves because they cannot prove who they are with the power of the prophecy. So Otec Mikhail continued about the passports. The last one, the Bordeaux color, don't take that one, it is already from the Antichrist. The green one you can still take. The brownish passport will eventually burst, and then from him, from the viper nest, will crawl out the baby reptilians.
Those who take the red passport will have their arms black to the shoulder when they stand in front of the Lord. He who takes the brown passport will be half black when he stands in front of the Lord. Those who take the cards will be black down to the knees, and after that they will have only one small step before they take the mark of the Antichrist.
So something will happen to the current Russian Federation passport, probably, when they change the entire regime in the country. At that time they will have only cards, as Otec Mikhail says, and those cards he describes as venomous baby snakes. Further, Mikhail explained that during his first year of reign, the Antichrist will actually not bother those who have remained loyal to the Lord. He will leave them at peace. Then, on the second year, he will start to prosecute and torment them, and on the third, he will want them dead, but in the beginning, he will pretend. And yet, at the final quote from priest Mikhail, well, everything is over. At the very end, there will be, let's say, 10 people per city left and 2 or 5 per village. one more example out of the many priests who influenced the couple of older Russian generations, making them aware of the dangers of the new documents, is Archimandrit Tavron Batosky. Exactly like priest Mikhail, his spirit was tempered at the time when religion was illegal in Russia. Because of the extremely difficult times of imprisoning and times in the labor camps, he was awarded with mystic powers and miracles, and the gift of prophecy were his way of life. He was also seen levitating, and many other miracles. One can read the biographies of many similar saints of that time. It wasn't so long ago. That's why there are still many witnesses to testify for that. But as far as the prophecies, he even talked about computers and the computer of the beast even before in Russia the normal people, knew what is a computer, and they were asking, what is this computer that you're talking about? So even back then, he spoke about one central beastly computer which will be installed in a 5-storied building in some small country abroad. But he said that the people of the Lord should not be afraid of this techno beast, because before the arrival of the Antichrist, this beast will be used for spying and data collection. That will be done secretly, and it will be used later on when the Antichrist arrives. Then it will become clear to everybody that every single step and every single word is recording. But then he said that the people of the Lord still have nothing to fear from, because in those times the Lord will defend them. And then he said that in biblical times people were using these old ways for accounting and trading and these lines and similar more simple marks, and they will return. They will return in the computer form, in the language of the computer. They will be like lines, black and white, he was saying at that time, a sequence of them like a patch, and 3 of them will be longer or shorter. He basically explained the concept of the barcode way before anybody knew about them. He said that in them there will be an input of information. What is the good which is marked like this? What is its origin, manufacturer, and all kinds of specifications. But the 3 lines of different length, they will belong to the Antichrist. He said, first they will put this ancient but computerized signs of the code on all commercial goods, so that the people start looking at it as if it is something trivial, and later on they will use it to mark the people with that and turn them into a number. The souls will not be identified by name as it is godly, but only as the number given by the devil. During the times he described all these things, life was quite different. USSR was still a country. He was telling them it will fall apart, completely different times will start. But mostly people didn't take it very, very seriously. At that time, even the priests thought this is something. I mean, ages ahead, maybe hundreds of years ahead in time. That's how far it seemed, the end times. But he was saying, no, some of you will see it, or the next generation, you will see it. It's not that far away. And he was giving even exact descriptions how they will make it. They will start making tricks with the money. Like on purpose, they will create shortage of something, and then they will release all of a sudden lots of goods and arrange everything in such a way that the people will have to wait in lines and then storm the stores like animals just to get the hold of something. And once people get the habit, they adopt this behavior as if of a wolf pack, then they will introduce the new documents, the mark of the beast, and it will work because the people will be already trained to just rush and attack and maybe even loot without thinking. So when they are just offered yet another paper to facilitate the storming of the stores, they will take it without thinking. Archimandrit Tavrion also said that the new world passports will be forced voluntarily, or not sure how to translate it. They will say it is all by choice, it's your choice, but actually they will make everything to force the people to accept them. And amongst these crazy shortages of goods, they will also do other tricks, like they will all of a sudden raise the pensions a lot and keep them in that way, so that the people will fall in love with the government and accept the documents. Shortly after that, because of the wars and the starvation, the people who got tricked after this will get nothing anyway, but they will be stuck with the passports forever, because the most important thing Archimandrit Tavrion told us is whoever gets into the beastly computer and agrees to take the document with these ancient black and white stripes, there is no way back. His consciousness will be dimmed at the time he accepts that, and after that, there will be no way out of this abyss. And for this reason, I repeated all this. We know already that everything is digitally tracked, that they collect information, that they have been doing these tricks, disrupting the economy on purpose. To describe so accurately the current situation in such detail, a century ago, is only for true mystic, and I hope his most important message will be taken seriously. In terms of more specific events, he also spoke about wars in Armenia, the Caucasus Mountains. He mentioned that Turkey will be blown up. He also mentioned that if Belarus gives in to the pressure of the devils, it will venomously turn against Russia, and the result will be, of course, only war, the country itself destroyed, other people dying as well. Only Russians die at the end, because the Belarusians, they are proper Russians. And indeed, we saw serious attempts, at least at 2 points in time. They were quite obvious. They were trying to stage uprisal and remove the voted government. Luckily, until now, it hasn't given in to the pressure, but if it does, it will be the same story as Ukraine. And what is happening now in Ukraine, there are almost no men alive. And later on, when the ordeal is over, Archimandrit Tavrion said that there will be some places untouched by the madness in Siberia, and those will be significant for the sprouts of the new noble race of men. And there was yet another prophetic vision which I wanted to include in this episode, but I lost its details. My cursed computer works when I do something else, but once I start video editing, it just freezes, and the internet doesn't work when I make video. Anyhow, the gist of that prophecy was visions from the 7 continents, and in overall, most of the earth, only the high peaks of the mountains at that time will be sticking out, while Australia and South America, they were the best candidates for complete sinking of major areas. And Archimandrit Tavrion mentioned this as a possibility for all Americas, actually. And was it him or Otec Mikhail spoke about Afghanistan? It's mentioning a sequence of war over there. The war will never end, all the way until Armageddon.
Святый Боже, святый крепкий, святый бессмертный, помилуй нас. Agios, Orpheus, Agios, is he. Крепко